So, we are going to spend the next few weeks on the Awesome Marriage podcast talking about how our health impacts our marriage physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. We are created in the image of God. We are in bodies. We wouldn't be alive if we weren't. And so, we need to pay attention to how we steward all these aspects of our health that God has given us. Because without them, we would not be able to live. We would not be able to have a marriage. We wouldn't have relationships. So, we need to take care of ourselves.
Mm.
So today, Dr. Kim, will you start us off by sharing how you realized that physical health is important to your marriage?
Yes, I mean, I think for us, it was probably that first year of marriage. At the end of that, we both coming out of college, we a lot of energy, all this kind of stuff, and basically, Nancy tried every recipe her mom had that first year of marriage. We both, at the end of that time, were heavier than we ever had been. Now, I think we didn't look bad, but
Mm,
we knew we were. It was bothering us. We didn't
mhm,
feel quite as good. We didn't quite have as much energy. And I can remember just sitting down and said, we can't keep eating like this.
mhm,
I mean, there's a lot of fried food, a lot of stuff like that, stuff that wasn't healthy for us. And then it showed on our bodies too.
mhm,
And so I think as we thought through it that, and over the years, we thought, we love each other. We love being married. And we don't know how many years God is given us, but we want to take care of our bodies in a way that we can be as healthy as we can for each other. Some things we can't control. I get
mhm,
that. All those kind of things. And so we began to try to do the things that we felt would make us healthier and hoping in return that was going to give us more energy, fun, time together, all those kind of things. The
mhm.
benefits come out of being healthy. And so that's probably where it was. And it really was something that we both valued and began. We got a Y membership.
Mhm.
Uh, I can remember Nancy when Grant was born. She'd take him in the little carry thing
Yeah.
and go to work out, and all the women would look over her, but she'd be doing her exercise and all kinds of stuff. And I think not only was it we were getting healthier, we were eating better, but I think some of the socialization at the Y was good for us too,
Mhm.
for
Yeah.
sure. And that
Oh,
helped with
yeah.
some of the things we'll talk about in the coming weeks.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah, that's really good. So I think you alluded to some different aspects of health, but I want to be really clear here what we're not talking about in this episode. We're not talking about you need to be a certain size. We do
Absolutely.
not think you need to be a certain shape. We don't believe that that is what we're going after at all here. But what we are talking about is stewardship, is taking care of the body God has given you, appreciating it by giving it the time that it needs to rest, to recover, to be healthy, to eat in a way that makes you feel good. I am a
Hmm.
huge sucker for feeling good. And I think that's a great motivation. Um, and also, the scripture tells us love the Lord your God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. That's an active instruction that there are all these facets of our being and we can't separate them. All of
Mm.
those parts of our of who we are part of how we love and serve and follow God. And so I think that it's important if we're following God in our marriage, we need to be taking care of the body he's given us to do that in, because that makes it easier to do the other things too.
Absolutely. And I know
Yeah.
there's people listening that because of genetics, because of different
Mhm.
things, predispositions, they struggle with that. And my heart goes out to
Mhm.
them and
Mhm.
pray for them. So, they do the best with what they have. And I know some people fall in that category. But I totally agree. I think it's so easy to get into comparison mode. And
Mm.
it's so easy, as you said, to focus on the outward appearance and oh, that's what they're talking about. It's not, but it's thrown in our face all the time with movie stars and models and
Mhm.
even athletes and stuff like that. Well, I can't compare myself to a bodybuilder, or I can't,
Mhm.
I shouldn't, or, or something. I don't, I got to be who God created me to be and the
Mhm.
healthiest best of who God created me to be.
Mhm.
And so that's what we're talking about. I was
Yes.
looking at a study, I guess it came out from the Center for Disease Control, said 71% of Americans are either overweight or obese,
Mhm.
and that is trending up.
Mm.
They use the word epidemic
Oh,
when
wow.
talking about it.
Mhm.
High blood pressure,
Hmm.
diabetes, disease, stroke, all of those kind of things we're being affected by that. And so we're
Mm-hmm.
talking, as Lindsay said, about your overall health and
Mm-hmm.
living a healthy life. And if you've been around people that suffer for some of those, you know
Mm-hmm.
that that's a difficult lifestyle for many people. And if it can be avoided, I don't want to go there. I
Mm-hmm.
want to stay as healthy as I can.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, I think that that epidemic word is really challenging because it's just so widespread. It feels a little bit like a mountain, a mountain to face. But I
Yes.
also think that we know small things done over time will make a big effect too.
I think that's a great point. Don't listen to this podcast and think I've got to go on a crash diet or stuff. That's not what we're talking
Mm-mm.
about at all. It's like, I think today we're going to have a healthier dinner, or
Mhm.
we're going to, I think, I've been thinking about taking a walk every morning or every evening with my spouse. Let's
Mhm.
start that today. It's those kind of things and
Mhm.
taking those baby steps. And if you begin doing that a year from now, I think you'll feel better. And I think you
Mhm.
have more energy. I think you'll be enjoying each other more.
Mhm.
I think all those positive things will happen.
Yeah, I think so. And I think while we're unpacking this too, I want to shout out one of our friends. She's been on the podcast before, but Jess Connolly has written a book called Breaking Free from Body Shame. And she does an
Mm,
incredible job unpacking this. The concept of, okay, I haven't read the book, but I've read her like words around it. And I've heard her, I know her voice and her, she's very biblical approach to unpacking the fact that like our body isn't good because of how it looks. It's good because God made it and he says it's good and his creation is good. And so we need to let go of our notions of, what looks a certain way or what we value or comparison and instead just say this is the temple of the Lord and we need to take good care of that. And
and
so
don't
I'll
forget,
link to that too.
yeah, and God made each one. We were made in His image. He created us perfect. So when God
Mhm.
created you, He didn't say, "Golly, I made a
Mhm.
mistake." No, you were
Mhm.
created perfectly.
Mhm.
Embrace what He's given you.
Mhm.
And I've seen so many people that have not done that.
Mhm.
And the difference between being able to do that and not is huge. It's just
Mhm.
how you look at the world, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, and I think anytime that we're not having a proper theology of our body, if we're in comparison or if we are in body shame, then we're going to be stuck. It's adding stress and shame are not good motivators. They're not good to help us have a vibrant, thriving life. Like we have to let go of those things. That is not of the Lord, and we have to let go of that stress and instead be motivated by the fact that it's worth taking care of. These things are worth doing because they're good things. We're
Yes.
not doing them out of shame or out of fear or striving or self-loathing or something like that.
Yeah, I think our culture, women buy into that and are very, very hard on themselves. And
Mhm.
I've had women, a lot of women, that their husbands tell them all the time, "You are beautiful. I love you just
Mhm.
like you are."
Mhm.
And they discount it because you're supposed to say that.
Mhm.
Believe him,
Yeah.
embrace that, and let him love you the way God's helping him to love you.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And I'll say, I mean, this is a personal note, but like as a woman dealing with that kind of thing, I had a long time where I've always not always for a long time I've liked to run. That's the exercise I prefer to do best. It doesn't take any hand-eye coordination, so that works for me. But for a long time I would do that because I didn't like how I looked and I would think, "Oh, I would just be so mad about why did God you made my legs short. I don't like how they look. I don't like this." And finally I realized like they're what allows me to do this
Oh,
sport
that's
that I
good.
enjoy. And what's the alternative? I like having them. I like that they work. I appreciate that. And starting to unlock that shift of like I just now when I think about it, I think, what a bratty child I was to say, God, you didn't make this right. No, I don't get to make that call. I just get to say, thank you. I have a body. And if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to
It's
live.
so good. Absolutely. A lot of it, we talk a lot about the neuroplasticity of the brain, and you can change your thinking. And
Hmm.
it's a great example of you seeing yourself one way and realizing that's not healthy.
Hmm.
God did make me this way, and embracing that and begin your thinking to
Hmm.
do that. And I think that's a great way to help get through that.
Yeah, it really shifts things to think
Yes.
about it differently. And we've spoken about the mindset and we will again in this series, but huge shifts.
Yes.
Okay, so these health decisions and like how we take care of our body seem like just personal choices. Like it seems like what I choose to eat for lunch or what I choose to exercise or not. is just what I choose. Well, how does that affect marriage? How do these impact our marriage?
I think for Nancy and I, because we made that choice back then, it was just a blessing that we did. Maybe God put that on us. I think our marriage is the fact that we both feel better
Mm-hmm.
and feel good, and that we have more energy because we're active and we like to be active. And so that kind of fits our lifestyle. Everybody doesn't like to be active, but we do. And so it has helped our marriage in that way that we
Mm-hmm.
can do the things that we'd like to do. We can do new things. We can explore. We can do all those kind of things. So I think in that way, I think it just has helped us be able to develop and grow in our marriage in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just knowing that Nancy values taking care of herself, her health, the way she eats, exercise is very important to her, that she does it for her, but she does it for me too.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. And I think she sees me do the same thing for her. And so we're able to encourage each other. Because there's days I don't want to exercise.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, if it's a rainy morning, early, getting up and running, or laying in bed listening to the rain, well, I want to pick the rain.
Mm-hmm.
But I try to get out and go run
Mm-hmm.
or go to the gym or do something else. And so it does take work. I mean, then, when you go to a restaurant, and there's a restaurant here that has undoubtedly the best chicken fried steak I've ever had in my life with jalapeno gravy. It is just like something to die for. And when I go there, I got to look at other things on the menu. I just don't want to eat that. Now, I might splurge and do it sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
but overall, I think it's the choices I make. It's being willing to say, what's my body going to feel like later tonight or tomorrow?
Yeah.
We got busy and we're not eating dinner till 8 o'clock, and I'm going to eat this huge chicken fried steak and go to bed. That's not going to be good for me. I'm not going to
Yeah.
sleep well. I'm not going to feel the next day. And, but that doesn't mean I might not do it sometime.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying you can't do those things, but I think it's learning to make choices that are good for us,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that's more important than that, 15 minutes of pleasure of eating something that's really not good for you.
Yeah.
I'll put another thing in here. Nancy and I have ice cream every night. Okay, so hope that helps people, and we have for years.
That does help. I like that a lot. I
Yeah.
really appreciate that approach.
It does. I mean, so I think what we have learned is that we splurge, but we choose our splurges wisely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a place here that has the best hamburger and French fries I've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll go there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Early marriage, we went there a lot. So today we might go there once a month or something like that. So we don't avoid those things. And I still have trouble, honestly. My palate has not adjusted real well ever to great healthy eating stuff. There's some stuff that just, I have learned. Nancy did figure out a way to do Brussels sprouts.
Mm-hmm.
Cuts them in half, put seasoning on them, puts some olive oil, and browns them in the oven or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that.
Mm-hmm.
There's some other foods that I just have not learned to love, so it's kind of choking them down sometimes if she fixes them. It's like my mother used to fix liver once a week, because at that time everybody thought that's supposed to be good for you. I don't know if it is or not, but we had liver.
It's back, Dr. Kim. Don't you worry, it's back.
Okay, it's
I don't cook it.
It was like I just knew when Liver Day was, and kind of ruined my whole day. but I think what I'm saying there is she did things that were healthy for us, and things that she thought were important. And I think I learned from that you do sometimes eat some things that you'd rather have. I'd rather she have done fried chicken than liver? Absolutely.
Right.
But I need to have that liver. And so I think that's helped us or helped me to see that making those choices makes a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good point too, that you said, you'll go to that burger restaurant. You'll go there. You just won't go there every day anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I used to. There's years that I was working, and before I went back into school, and where I worked, there was I'll say Whataburger that was about half an hour. I ate Whataburger for lunch, Whataburger cheeseburger for lunch 5 days a week for probably 5 years.
Oh my gosh.
And then I wondered why I didn't feel as good. Yeah. And I didn't register, because I really enjoyed that cheeseburger. And I love Whataburger. I'll still go, but not every day.
Wow.
Things like that. And so, I think I don't want people to think that, we're some health nuts, because we're not. We just want to use what God gave us in the best way that we can.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for me, one of the biggest health factors I've probably talked about it on the podcast because it's huge for me is sleep. It's just sleeping.
Yes.
And I just was a chronic night owl for the longest time. When I had little kids, I would want to stay up after they went to bed and be like, oh, phew, it's quiet. I get to, like relax or do, I don't know, crafts or watch TV or whatever. Sit on the
Yep.
couch and eat chips. I don't know, whatever it was. I enjoyed that. So I would stay up way too late because it just felt like
Yeah.
this treat. And then in the morning, I would be struggling. I mean, I was never a good sleeper, even before kids, but in the past couple of years, I made a really conscious decision as I was approaching the end of my 30s and getting into 40. I don't want to do that anymore. I know it's not healthy for me. Study after study tells me about how getting good sleep is so important for our brain and for all these different things. And I discovered, wow, it actually makes me a lot more of a nice person when I sleep well. And so
Yeah.
that's really good for my marriage if I'm not crabby and cranky and worn out. So these little things that are like anything that makes me feel physically energized and better is going to help me have an easier time being the person I want to be. And so that's
Absolutely.
important to me.
I love that you said that. I've always known sleep was important, but I also
Mhm.
bought into, because some people I listen to, that, man, you can get by with 4 hours sleep a night
Oh.
and you're wasting time sleeping and stuff like that. And I got into some, not 4, but
Mhm.
it was like, if I get 6, I'm okay.
Mhm.
Uh, but I just didn't feel as good. And
Mhm.
so then last year, maybe the first year of the pandemic, 2020, I read the book Why We Sleep
Mhm.
when it came out, and it impacted my life so many ways, as they talked about the value of sleep and how our brain works and all those
Mhm.
kind of things. And it is valuable. And then I heard, my friend Kerry Newhoff, which most people know who he is, and
Mhm.
I value him. And I heard one of his podcasts recently, and they were talking about sleep. And
Mhm.
Kerry said, I now sleep 8 to 10 hours a
Wow.
night,
Wow.
and I'm more productive than I ever was. Now, I don't think I could
Mhm.
sleep 8 to 10, but now I
Mhm.
try to get at least 7, seven and a
Mhm.
half. 7.5 seems to be my really good point.
Mhm.
And he talked about it's okay to take naps.
Mhm.
Sometimes if I would take a nap, I'd think, well, I just wasted 30 minutes,
Yeah.
or something
Yeah.
like that. So I love that you brought that up, because I don't think I don't know. I think we fool ourselves. I can get by
Mhm.
on this. I can
Mhm.
get by with this. And maybe short term, but long term, it's not going to be healthy for us.
Mhm.
And now we've got scientific data that backs that up in so many different ways.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think too, to take it back to where we started with theology, is like God created us. He didn't create us as robots. We're humans. He made
Oh,
us to rest. He rested, and he not because he needed to, but because it was good. And so we have to look at that limitation. I'm not either. I didn't create my body. I didn't create the way it needs to work. It's just part of how we are. And so
absolutely.
I think continuing to try to like subvert that is just not wise. And at some point it's
No,
probably going to catch up.
absolutely. It's not a badge of honor to be able to tell everybody I sleep 4 hours a night so I can
Yeah.
work 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
No, it
can't do
is
it.
not.
And I
Yeah.
think there are a few people, probably genetically, that are exceptions. I get that. I'm not one of
Mhm.
them.
Mm-mm.
And so if I tried to be that, I was climbing a hill that would never end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that is just it's not a good feeling. I mean, I have this kind of like seasonal insomnia I'll get from time to time, and so now that I've become more diligent and disciplined with my sleep, when I don't get as much, I'm like, "Oh man, this is terrible." And that's how I used to feel all the time. It's really bad.
Yeah, I think if
But
people are listening, and just give it a try for, say, a
yeah.
month. Go to bed a
Mhm.
little, maybe go to bed an hour earlier or sleep a little later, whatever it is, but try to get in that balance of 7 to 8 hours and do it consistently. And if you don't feel better, then do what you want to do. But I think you
Yeah.
feel better.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
get it with kids. I understand there are factors that Nancy and I don't have to deal with. And it was harder to do that, especially when kids are young, because they don't know you need sleep.
Mhm.
Because if they're awake, they think everybody in the house should be awake. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I know those are challenges, and I get that. And you work, but they're just seasons too.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean when you get out of that season, and most of the seasons with kids don't last that long,
Mhm.
get back to sleep. Eating.
Mhm. One of my kids just asked me yesterday, "Hey, what's the deal with you and dad going to bed so early?" And I'm like, "Well, you know what? You're older now. And you
Yeah,
didn't used to realize, like, we go to bed earlier than you now because we get up earlier than you and we do things you
yeah.
don't even see or know about, but now you're old enough to be up a little later and you see that." And it was just such a funny thing. He was
And
like
that is, that's a neat
processing.
observation. They just, all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's like, huh, why did they do that? That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and I think one other thing that I think about when I think about physical health is for a long time I had just like I felt I had some bad physical discomfort, some bad symptoms. I had, pains, aches and brain fog and all these
Yes.
things and low energy, just not I was not functioning at my best. And I went to a couple of different doctors who said, "Well, of course, you're stressed. You're just stressed. You've got kids. And I didn't really like that answer.
Hmm.
So every now and then I would just try a different doctor and see what they would say. And so finally I went to one and they just ran some tests and I just had a bunch of food intolerances, food allergies, and I was eating things that were making me sick and I didn't know.
Hmm.
And so I didn't really want to change my food habits really, but when I did, I felt so much better. And so I think if you have some nagging things like that, it's worth going to the doctor. You got to have a doctor that listens to you, but you also have to listen to them and do the things they
Yes,
say. So those work together. But if you're just walking around feeling terrible every day, that's not okay. You don't have to accept that. You can see if there are some things you can do to feel better.
absolutely. And I think it's a good point of finding a doctor that values that and maybe
Mm,
specializes in that, because you don't want to keep going to a doctor till someone says, "Yeah, I keep eating like you're eating,"
yeah.
or something like that. Like
Yeah.
I did when I was early in running, when I was doing races and stuff, and I would have a few nagging injuries. And I
Hmm.
remember I said, "I need to go to orthopedic," and one of the guys I ran with said, "Don't go to one that's not a runner because they'll tell you to stop
Mm,
running." And so I didn't.
yep.
But the one I went to that was a runner, he gave me some great tips as far
Hmm.
as shoes and things to do that could make my run better and keep me running my whole life. Because
Hmm.
I'm like you, there's nothing. I tried different things during the pandemic. I tried some
Hmm.
different things. I don't know why I thought that if you're outdoor, you'd catch COVID. But anyway, with nobody else around.
Right.
But it is. I love it,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
my body loves it. And so now that I protect my knees and my feet pretty well, and
Mm.
did that for a long time, I can still enjoy it.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think that's an important thing because we need to find somebody who's going to help us feel
Yes,
our best and function our best. That's really
absolutely.
really good. So, as a counselor, how do you see physical health impacting other aspects of life?
Oh, I think it just kind of bleeds over all of our life. I think
Hmm.
our work, our play, you don't feel like playing like you did, or doing
Hmm.
or your spouse says, "Hey, let's go." Remember when we used to do those long walks, kind of hike walks? Let's do those again. And you
Hmm.
don't feel like doing it. And so you kind of miss out on something. I think it affects our emotions. I
Mm.
think the examples you gave, it can make us, if I don't get enough sleep, Nancy would say that, I mean, I think I'm still perfect, if I don't get enough sleep, not really, but she'll say, "You didn't get enough sleep last night, did you?" And I'll go, "No, I didn't."
Mm.
And because I get a little crabby, I can
Hmm.
get a little on edge. I can get a little, I don't know, just not like I want to be around
Hmm.
her or anybody else. And so, and I don't think when I don't sleep, I have opportunities for fun and I don't enjoy it. So
Hmm.
maybe if I didn't sleep good that night, and maybe I've got a grandkid that's got a game that day, and yes, I'm going to go to the game, but I'm going to sit there thinking, "Oh, I want to take a nap," instead of just really enjoying and embracing it. So I think it affects us in so many different ways.
Hmm.
And I think for me and maybe some other men, there was I didn't want to tell anybody that I slept 8 hours, because
Mm.
I think they would think I was lazy or unproductive. I had all
Hmm.
these images in my mind of this is what a man is supposed to
Hmm.
do if he's going to be successful.
Hmm.
And so there was even some shame in that for me of
Hmm.
trying to sleep more. And so I had to get past that and realize, no, I'm better with the rest of the hours in the day because I
Hmm.
slept 7.5 hours
Hmm.
than I would be if I slept 6 hours. I'd be dragging
Yeah.
all day, but I just slept
Man,
six, and I only needed 6 hours, but I didn't. I needed more.
that's a really interesting point. I think that's cool too that it sounds like it's being talked about a little more and normalized to
I think it
to
is
be a
too.
person who sleeps, which is great.
Well, yeah, and Carrie and I got to be friends when my first book came out, and I went to
Mhm.
Toronto, and Carrie did my interview for
Mhm.
a TV station there and or network there, and so he and I have stayed in contact this then, and so I love listening. I'll plug his podcast because I think he
Mhm.
does such a great job. He's a great interviewer, but you know, I do admire him and look up
Mhm.
to him in many ways. And when he said that, I don't know, it just kind of gave me a freedom. It was kind of like
Yeah.
Nancy can say, "You need to get 7 or 8 hours sleep a night." And I
Mhm.
go, yeah, honey, sure. Carrie says
Mhm.
it. Okay, honey, we're going to bed earlier tonight. You know,
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, now you get to do that too. You admitted
Yes, yes,
you're at
yes,
7.5. You can't
yes,
quite get to
yes,
8.
yes.
No, that's good. That's really good. I think that's all so true. So what are the top ways if you're just gonna start, if you have not really been thinking about this and you're gonna start, where are you gonna tell somebody to start? What are the things we should be doing?
I do think you need to get a checkup first. I
Mm.
believe in annual checkups. I believe in checking, let your doctor check things. Just make sure you're not gonna, and don't think you're gonna go out and start running marathons
Mhm.
tomorrow or something like that if you choose running or working out, or you're
Mhm.
gonna walk in the gym and, oh, in a couple of weeks I'll look like that guy. No, you probably won't, and that's okay. You don't
Mhm.
need to. So I think regular checkups is a good way to start that.
Mhm.
Exercise, find something you enjoy doing. I loved what you said about running, and I feel the same way about running. I know people that would rather die than put on a
Yeah.
pair of running shoes and die. I
Yep.
get that. I
Mhm.
get it. So, but find something you can do that you enjoy.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of options now. There's some Oculus has some workout deals that you can wear, virtual things that
Mhm.
I haven't tried them, but I've heard they're great and a
Mhm.
great workout and kind of
Mhm.
fun too. So I think those kind of things. Look at your diet.
Mhm.
Maybe you and your husband sit down and I had some good friends that during COVID, they began doing meal planning. Never done it
Huh.
before. So they plan and they still do it. Every week they plan out for their meals.
Mhm.
And so they put some splurges in there and healthy.
Mhm.
So they balance it out. And I think sometimes we get busy and and then we cook something that's quick. And a lot of times
Yeah.
those things aren't as healthy. And I think most supermarkets don't help us. You look at the end caps in a lot of supermarkets, and it's usually the unhealthiest things on those end
Mhm.
caps, just mostly, unless you're going to Whole Foods, I guess, or something.
Right. They
But
got stuff
most,
there too.
yeah, they do. Yeah,
Mhm.
just because it says Whole Foods doesn't mean that's going to be great
Mhm.
for you. So I think doing that, look and do it together. I think it helps. It's hard if one of you says, "I'm going to do this, this, and this," and the other doesn't. So then
Mhm.
it's like you get eat separate, or you get two meals. I believe a lot in eating together. I think it's a great time to get together. So I think planning something that works for both of you
Mhm.
together and get you on a healthier eating pattern and ease into it. That doesn't mean you have to throw out everything that you've been eating.
Mhm.
I'm a strong believer in putting splurge days or splurge meals in
Mhm.
once a week. I think you just
Mhm.
need to do that. You
Mhm.
don't want to forget what a cheeseburger tastes like. You just don't.
No.
That's just not, no,
No.
ever. Uh, and I think too, keep up. Have a couple emails that I get. I keep up on the new discoveries and medical breakthroughs.
Mhm.
There's some so much going on right now into helping us be healthier and things that if God leaves us here, we can be healthier. I mean, I would love to be 100 before I
Mhm.
die, but I want to be healthy.
Mhm.
I don't want to be just slumped over somewhere and
Yeah.
and they put a birthday cake in front of me. I can't even raise my
Right.
head to blow it out.
Yeah.
No, take me, God.
Mhm.
But if I can do everything I can do to be healthy, I would love to be 100.
Mhm.
Nancy and I was showing me a deal last night of a lady who's 108. She looked like she was probably 60 or 70, and
Wow.
she was active. And
Mhm.
I thought, and probably genetics, a lot goes into that, why she got
Yeah.
to do that. So I just want to be, as long as God chooses to leave me here, I
Mhm.
want to be as healthy as I can so I
Mhm.
can love my wife well, my
Mhm.
family well, and serve God.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. Um, I think all those are really good, and I think um, as far as I've shared a lot about this already in the podcast, but just energy and feeling good are such motivators for me, and so finding the things that make me feel good and that don't slow me down. Like I used to like to eat like some sweets at lunch or something. I love sugar, I really do. But if I would do that, I would have no energy. I would just go
Yeah.
in this really deep slump, and I had to just figure out that's not working for me. I need the
Yeah.
energy. I need it, and I'm I'm like you, Dr. Kim. I like balance a lot. I like to eat kind of whatever. I don't want to be obsessing over it. I
Right.
really don't. That's important to me because I've been in that kind of place and it was not where I want to live. So I'm
Right.
not into throw out the whole cabinet. I'm not into strict stuff like that because I just want to be able to think about it in a balanced way. But above that, I just want to feel really good. I want to feel really alive in my
Yeah.
life. So that's
Yeah. I think
important.
if we don't have a medical condition that
Hmm.
doctor says do or don't eat these things,
Hmm.
to me, the healthiest is exercise and balanced eating.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that way, I've never, and I know a lot of people believe in some of the diets and stuff, and that is so good for them.
Hmm.
To me, it's always been easier to try to balance my eating. And I'm like you, cutting out sugar is hard. And
Hmm.
I'm working, actually, something I'm working on right now,
Hmm.
trying to eat less sugar,
Hmm.
just because of some things I've read lately. And I've known it all the time that sugar is not good for us. But,
Yeah.
I wish broccoli tasted like sugar.
Yeah.
My life would be so good.
And cheeseburgers.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah. Yeah, and
exactly.
that's and it's it too. I think it's I know people who can't exercise because of physical conditions. I know people who can't
Absolutely.
eat even, who are on liquid diet or whatever kind of sustenance. And you know what? If that's you, you have to do whatever is in your power. If some things are not in your power, other things still are. So don't hear us saying, you have to do what we're saying. We're saying follow God's lead, steward your body well, do what's in your power, do the part you can do,
Absolutely.
help. Because in all these aspects, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, like we are called to do well with what we're entrusted with. So just
You know,
take the step you can take.
yeah, and I think there's nutritionists that I know that I think sometimes I'm afraid to go to someone like that because they think, okay, all I'm going to eat is lettuce the rest of my life.
Mhm.
But that you can talk to and say, these are things I enjoy, and they will help you plan a diet. If you want to still
Mm.
eat your cheeseburgers or whatever, do
Mhm.
that. But this would be good to eat this, this, and this. Make sure you do these this week. And someone can
Mhm.
maybe with some knowledge can help you plan healthier eating.
Mhm.
Um, and what I've learned too with seasonings and stuff, healthy eating doesn't have to taste bad because I always thought it
Mm-mm.
did. It's like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, still not able to eat tofu. But other than
Yeah.
that, I can, I'm pretty good on stuff. But you see the seasonings and stuff. Nancy and I have this restaurant we go to sometimes, and it's pretty much vegan, I guess. They served a beet that was cut and seasoned,
Hmm.
looked like steak and tasted like steak
Hmm.
almost. I mean, it was so good. And so
Wow.
I think there's things we can do with it. Now,
Mhm.
we don't have time to do that at home.
Right.
But it also helped me see that maybe a little extra seasoning or something like that is gonna make this a lot more fun to eat
Mhm. Yeah.
if I'm gonna eat
Yeah.
that.
And I think that's fun. Have fun with it. I love what you said. Maybe ask a nutritionist or try something new somewhere else. I just think there's something to be said for having fun with these things.
It shouldn't be a burden. I think that's what
Yeah.
you're getting at. You don't want it shouldn't be something that you dread mealtime
Yeah. No,
at
I
all.
agree. I agree totally. So, what if one spouse in a marriage is doing some of these steps and wants their spouse to join in?
I would I would want to talk to them about it. I
Mhm.
would pray first so that you're calm and you're not judgmental, some of the things we
Mhm.
talk about anyway. And then I think really just set the example
Mhm.
and invite them into that. Don't nag. If you have a spouse that, say, is overweight,
Mhm.
you're concerned about your spouse. Maybe they're having a little bit of heart problem. The doctor is
Mm.
telling them to do some things and they're just not doing it.
Mm.
Uh, Speak from your heart. Don't nag. Say,
Mm.
I love you. I
Mhm.
want to live a long time with you.
Mhm.
And I want you to be with me and as healthy as we can together. So I would do that, and then you got to leave it in that person's court, and maybe say, "Hey, how about one night a week that
Mhm.
we eat the same thing? See if we can find some things that are healthier that you will like." Just again, make it a product, make it something you're doing together,
Yeah.
not trying to nag or badger your spouse into doing these things.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something we come back to probably almost every episode is working on things together, bringing them
Yep.
in, and I think that's always good.
No matter what
Good.
it just makes then you're on the same team doing it. And I think sometimes people that maybe the doctor's given some things, maybe it's easier if when you're doing it together.
Yeah.
And if you go on that diet with them,
Mhm.
I've seen a lot of people do that. and just make that sacrifice a little bit,
Mm.
and you both end up being healthier
Mm-hmm.
for
Yeah.
sure.
And that's another shared thing, another thing you're sharing
Yeah,
together.
absolutely.
So we've touched on some of this already, but how have these things impacted your marriage, and how has it impacted you and Nancy personally?
I, obviously, we are far from perfect, and
Mm.
I always want people to know that Nancy and I've been through some things. We
Mm-hmm.
both have gone through major depression.
Mm-hmm.
Thank goodness it wasn't at the same time.
Mm.
Uh, Taking care of ourselves, eating healthy, working through that, working with doctors has helped us through that.
Mm-hmm.
Nancy had a heart issue a number of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They thought it was a heart attack. It wasn't. It was a
Mm.
thing where the uh, kind of spaz, whatever around there. I'm not thinking the right word. Anyway, it's called
Mm.
Prince metals angina, but
Mm-hmm.
it's dangerous.
Mm.
And so we knew out of that we need to do some things different. 15 years ago, I had prostate cancer and had
Mm.
surgery to have that removed. And so, out of all those things, it helped us value good health and to do the things that we didn't need to do to remain healthy. And so,
Mm-hmm.
it's not like we have just lived this perfect, health, perfect life the whole time. The first part of
Mm-hmm.
this year, I didn't really realize it because it wasn't a major depression. I went through a minor depression
Mm-hmm.
and I've just pulled out of it and realizing that that's really what it was. And
Mm.
so I think all of those things, a couple of things. One, I think because of those things, it's helped us be more conscious of being healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Two, it's helped us really, we've come together in that. Okay, you've got this heart thing. Does the doctor, do we need to do anything?
Mm-hmm.
You had prostate cancer. What do we need to do together
Mm-hmm.
to help you recover, to help you do these things? And so I think, yes, I think it's impacted us a lot. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's looking for answers together to stay healthy. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's helped when you look back. I mean, I really didn't enjoy any of those things, but I
Mm-hmm.
think God taught us some things, and I think they all drew us closer together.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good. And I think it's important that you mentioned you guys have been through some things. You really have.
Yeah,
And it's hard in a marriage because we've had some things too, where it's like things that are out of your control. You have an accident, you have
absolutely.
an injury, you have no control over that. But I think for me, what that's made me think is every day that I am able, I'm going to be really thankful to, be able to have the energy and the vitality, to live in a way that to the best of my ability, am able to enjoy it. I'm able to have fun with the kids, able to enjoy my marriage and do active things together. And that's not always in our control, but when it
Right.
is, it just makes me more thankful. So I think that attitude, like the gratitude of it, just kind of reinforces like
Yes.
wanting to be able to take care of ourselves to the best of our ability so we can
And
together.
I think too, something that's helped me, no matter what we go through, whether it's an injury, like you said, or sickness or things, or just a health thing that's going to be with the rest of your life, by accepting that, I think God, I think it just makes all the difference in the world. Accepting that, and
Mhm.
okay, God, what do you want me to do? As long as God leaves us here on this earth, I believe He has a
Mhm.
purpose for us,
Mhm.
whether we're whatever's going on in our lives. And so I think
Mhm.
when we find that, we realize that no matter what we face, that God has a plan. It didn't surprise Him, and He can give us abundant life no matter what we go through if we
Mhm.
choose to seek it and not focus on the negative. It's accepting, okay, God, this is where I am right now. What do you want me to do?
Mhm. Yeah, because that's all we can do.
Yeah, that's all we can
That's
do.
good. That's good. So, Dr. Kim, this has been a really encouraging and helpful, practical conversation about physical health. Is there any other final piece of advice you have for us today?
I would just say wherever you are, maybe this will get a chance for you and your spouse to sit down together and kind of look at your physical health. What are you eating? Those kind of things. Maybe you decide to go to a nutritionist together. Maybe whatever it is, but maybe take a step. Maybe you've been thinking about exercising. I've got a lot of couples exercise together. They
Mhm.
may go to the gym and do different things, but they go together and have fun with it. And so maybe you just begin to take some baby steps in that direction. And I think what we saw is we did and we felt better. It encouraged us to keep doing those things
Mhm.
to get where we are right now.
That's really good. That's so good. All right, so this is fun. We get to answer an anonymous audience question. Dr. Kim, what is that question this week?
I love this. I love that
Yeah.
have made this a part of the podcast to answer some questions, and most of them are not going to be on the topic we're talking about today. So this question is: my husband and I have very different approaches to parenting. How do we get on the same page? Well, that's a common issue, I know, because we come out of different families of origin, and so none of us were probably parented the same. And so, what do we do? I think what I try to get couples to do is look at what is the end goal with your kids when they get 18. What do you want to have accomplished as a parent in their life, and use that as your goal, and then kind of back up, how do we get there? And that's usually where the conflict comes of. But I think if we know what the end goal is, then I think it's easy to kind of get together on the ideas to help get us there. And then, so maybe you make your list. You sit down and say, okay, what is important to us? Well, we'd love them to accept Christ. We'd love to expose them to some different things. Maybe we want them to be able to take responsibility, personal responsibility. So you make your list of those things, and then you say, okay, how do we together? What is it? Brainstorm ideas. How do we get them there? And then find the ones out of that brainstorm that you agree on, and then you've kind of got your game plan. Now there'll be other things come up you'll have to deal with, but I think find those things, and then if you still are just having trouble, I'd go to counseling. I'd go to counseling together and let a Christian counselor help you get on the same page with things, because I think it's so important that your kids see you on the same page, because they just know if you're not. And kids, as much as we love them and care for them, they are selfish just like we are. They want their own way. And if they figure they get mom and dad into it and they get their way, there are ages when they're going to do that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and that just complicates all the more. So I'd say that always helped us. We did that. Somebody suggested that to us when our kids were probably grade school, I guess. And we've been thinking about what are the things that we want for them. And so then we kind of had an end goal. And so then if we decided something that we disagreed on and it didn't meet that goal, just throw it out. And so it helps. And you got to be willing to compromise. You got to be willing to listen. But I think if your end goals are the same, it makes it much, much easier. And it's not about the way you were brought up was better than the way he or she was brought up. It's just not. It's just different.
Yeah, that's good. That's a great answer.
So if you enjoyed this episode, we just take a minute to leave us a rating and a review. I'll link in the show notes to leave an iTunes review, because that's one of the best ways to make the show more visible to people that haven't found us yet. And we want to find us. There is a lot of marriage content out there, and we're passionate about bringing God's purpose for marriage into the podcast space. So you can help us a lot to make that happen by leaving us a review.
Yes. And also make sure you are following us on social media. We're on Instagram, on Facebook, and Dr. Kim is on TikTok. And we've just got all kinds of different stuff going on over there. We've got fun stuff. We've got tips. We've got free date night ideas. So make sure you're finding us over there, and I'll have those links in the show notes. Thanks so much for joining us today, for sharing your time with us and listening. Have a great day and do something awesome for your marriage today.